Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Pig-Headed and Well-Read. Today's episode covers chapters 28 through 32. I'm your host, Nathan Skidmore, here with my co-host, Ethan Rowley. As always, we're a spoiler-free pod, so we'll only be discussing things that have happened through chapter 32. As a reminder, we'll be releasing episodes weekly every Tuesday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on our YouTube channel, and each episode is going to cover roughly 50 pages of the book. You can also follow us on social media, and we'd love to hear from you. Either you can DM us on our accounts, or you can shoot us an email at pigheadedandwellread@gmail.com. Uh, Quick content warning before we get started. Due to the nature of East of Eden story and characters throughout this pod, we'll be touching on some mature and complex themes, including but not limited to violence, abuse, suicide, alcoholism, racism, war, death, and sex work. So if these topics are difficult for you, please be careful. Ethan, what about this section of chapters are you most excited to listen to us talk about?
In this set of chapters, we're really kind of entering the final rising action of the novel. And so we get the news that Charles is dead and he has a will and he's
Hmm.
left some of his money for both Adam and Kathy. And so that thickens the plot up a ton. And it's fun to see how the characters respond to that.
Right on. Well, let's see how we responded to it and kick it back to our past selves and listen in.
Adam gets a letter back from Charles' lawyers, and they're writing him because Charles passed away. And he has left his entire inheritance to be split up equally between Adam and Kathy. Adam, for a brief moment, questions whether or not he should tell Kathy about this, but ultimately decides to and wins another battle of the wits down at Kathy's whorehouse. Not really a battle of the wits, but just kind of wins another war with her. And then in between this, there's some stories of what it was like to have a Model T car back in the day, and Tom and Desi's interesting brotherly sister relationship.
Like we all have.
Yeah.
Okay, well, great. Well, it starts with me, chapter 28.
Okay.
Um, yeah, so in chapter 28, we get an interesting I don't know if the common reader was as confused about this as I was, but like when Aaron already on a bad start.
Adam and
when
Aaron.
when Adam and Aaron when Aaron and Caleb came back to the house and saw Adam there with the what was the family name? The Logans? What were they?
Oh, the Bacons.
The Bacons, yeah. Um, it was unclear to me if much time had passed, because they didn't comment on that their dad was acting strange. Um, and so I was like, maybe like they did like a time jump where like Adam came home and then Steinbeck just chose not to write about what the initial reaction was
Hmm.
because they just didn't react at all to seeing their dad talking to these people. Um, But then chapter 28 starts and it says, that night at the supper table, the boys discovered a change in their father. And so it's like, oh, that was the same day. That was the first time they'd
Hmm.
seen their dad. Um,
Very rare to get
and
back-to-back chapters that happen on the
where it's
same
like
day.
consecutive, yeah. Um, yes, it is interesting to kind of think about that. It's probably very rare because what Adam did was so strange, where he like basically just like emotionally checks out for 11 years.
Yeah.
So I can't even imagine what they're going through as far as like all of a sudden like their dad's like asking them like how was your day, and that's like the
Hmm.
first time your dad's ever asked you that. um like it's probably strange for someone that grew up in like a home where no one was asking about how their day was, to like be adopted or moved into a home or like visit a home where people are asking how their day was. Like, that would be hard, but it would be way weirder if just one day that's the same guy that was seemingly unconcerned about you for 11 years. was like, how was the hunting? And
Hmm.
you're just like, what do you care? Like, like,
Yeah.
w-
Is this genuine kindness? Are you trying to pry something out of me? Maybe Cal was thinking, does he know about my thing with the rabbit with Abra?
yeah,
Their
yeah. It's
first thought
like,
kind of goes to worry instead of like, oh, my dad cares about me.
yeah, like we get kind of a back and forth here in the first couple pages of chapter 28, and it keeps like cutting into like the mind of the boys almost as one consciousness where it's like, and the boys felt that it was like maybe a trap, and then the boys relaxed because it seemed not to be a trap, and it's like
Yeah.
it's just interesting, very interesting. Wow. But I think it's a unique situation to write about, right? Where Adam is suddenly a person again, and his boys have to kind of adjust to that. Um,
Yeah, it kind of made me think in a much lesser extent. I was thinking, have I ever experienced something like this? And maybe it's like your dad gets really upset at you one night, and then the next day he's like, "Hey, you guys want to go to Dairy Queen?" And you're like, "Oh man, this
but
is
if
just
that
you're
took 11
overly kind."
years,
Yeah, exactly.
I guess, and you had never known his kindness in your entire life,
Yeah,
if if you made your dad upset at birth and then he took you to Dairy Queen for your 11th birthday, how would that feel?
right.
That's what happened to these kids.
Great
And I
analogy.
do, yeah. And so Cal, he tries to like, he's got kind of that scheming mind, and so he tries to figure out how he's going to win this. Like, and so he kind of pries about the mom, like right away. He's like, all right,
Hmm.
well, if you want to be all talkity talk friendly guy, like, let's talk about mom. And he kind of uses what Abra gave them as far as like where she was like, "Oh, well, don't you know where your mom's buried?" And he kind of takes that and he says, "Well, like, yeah, the girl we were talking to, she said we should visit mom's graves and that you know where that is." And we kind of get a peek into Adam's mind where Adam's like, "Oh, crap." Like I have to like
They're
it's like
growing up.
it's like it mentions that like he was never a good liar and he wasn't expecting to have to lie, but he quite easily kind of pivots and he's like, "Oh, we sent her back east, so we can't go.
Hmm.
Sorry." Um, and so pretty good
Good lie.
recovery. I thought it was pretty smooth on Adam's part. Again, we're on a multi-chapter run of Adam doing better than you'd think you would. Um, anyway, then they send him to bed, and Lee and Adam check out the bills, and it's just another reminder that Lee's basically like the MVP of Adam's whole life. Like, what on earth did Adam do to deserve this? Where like Lee's like, here are your financials, year
Yep.
by year. Here are all the bills and the receipts. Um, and I guarantee that was not part of Lee's job description when he took over as
No
the
way.
cook. That he would be balancing the books on Trask Industries.
Yeah.
Um,
See, Adam's so lucky that Lee's an honest guy too.
he is, yeah. And so they start talking about finances, but they pretty quickly pivot to discussing whether or not they should tell the boys about their mother. Um, and this is kind of my Nate's take spawns from here, so I won't dive into it too deeply, but it is uh and I can't think of a way not to say interesting. It is an interesting discussion.
Interesante.
Es un interesante. It's an interesting discussion, about how that works, about lying to people for their own benefit, about telling half truths, and like, is it good? Like, is it good for someone to be lied to? Like,
Especially
um,
children.
especially children. And then Lee kind of he's like, well, like my dad told me the story of my mom, even though it wasn't a good story.
Hmm.
And so then Adam's like, well, you better tell it to me. And Lee's like, I don't want to. And then Adam's like, well, you better tell it to me. And so Lee does. Um,
I, my
eh,
line that I really liked here is Lee says, well, I guess the narrator says, and Lee looked back in time right before he starts
mm.
telling the story. I thought that was a really interesante way to say that, like, you're reminiscing about a story, or I just think of like how movies kind of like do the wavy dissolve thing to let you know you're going
Yeah,
into the past.
that is good. And don't call me Way. Little
Es
bilingual
interesante,
humor for
way.
you. Interesante Way.
That's for our norteños who are listening.
We love you guys. All right. That's good. I'm proud of myself for that one. You're like explaining it, and I'm just like sitting on this stupid joke. I'm just like, I'm gonna say it. Yeah. The line that I thought was interesting is or fun was that Lee starts the story, and then
Yeah.
like half a page in, he's like, I thought I could tell it in just a few sentences.
Yep.
And then like straps in to tell the whole story. And I was like, he's just like me, where it's like where it's like it's time for my Nate's take. And I'm like, yeah, I've got like a sentence or two, and then it's like 20 minutes later, and I'm like, and another thing.
Yeah.
So
So
um
As Lee was prepping to tell this story, what kind of story did you think it would be? Did you think it would be as kind of dark as it ended up being?
what did I think the story would be? That's a good question.
And if you didn't
I
have any
mean,
thoughts, that's okay too. But it
no, I
just,
did
I
because
forgot about
he's
this. I completely forgot
because
about this story.
because he says like, well, my dad told me about my mom, and I was like, how similar could Lee's story possibly be before that's ridiculous? Like,
Hmm.
if Lee was like, my mom also ran a whorehouse,
Yeah, and
secretly, like,
Lee's not much of a one upper.
no, yeah, that's true. He tends to let things lie. So I was like, what on earth could Lee's backstory be that would make sense here? I didn't really have a theory as much as I was like, it was just like, what am I about? Like, how could Lee possibly have a story similar to this?
Right,
And it isn't quite the same. Like I was ready to kind of read like about his mom abandoning their family, and I'm like, that's sad. Like maybe that's why Lee took care of the boys was because his mom abandoned him and he wanted to help him. But
right.
that's not really what happened. What does happen is he kind of tells well doesn't he doesn't kind of he does tell the story of how his parents got in debt in China and signed a contract to uh come over to America as part of like a work camp. And it's not technically slavery because they're employed, and they did it because like when you signed on you got like a bulk sum of money, so it got them out of debt. And like so the dad signed up, and I don't that it must not have been enough to cover the whole debt because then the mom also signs up and disguises herself as a man. Or maybe she just wanted to be with him. Um,
Probably a little bit of both, but
a
either way,
little
definitely
both.
the inspiration for Mulan.
Really?
I don't know.
No, I didn't know if you had something in your Steinbeck book, your Stein book. Yeah. So it ends up being this pretty brutal story that talks kind of about the experience of these Chinese immigrants that got brought over, and then were used kind of as not slave labor. Like I'm legally saying that they were not slaves, but like
Hmm. Wink, wink.
pretty much like
They were exploited.
pretty much slave labor. And like it's kind of an interesting part of US history because it doesn't get like the pull that some of the other tough to look at parts of US histories are. Like, like there's a lot of things that have happened in this country that are regretful. In any country really. There's not a country in the world that's like our history's awesome. We've nailed it every time.
Hmm.
Um but yeah, you do it the the history of like the Chinese like building the railroad to help cross the country, and where they're basically used as like like dynamite test but like dummies,
Hmm.
and just kind of have their lives thrown at this project without care if they survived or not. um Kind of under discussed, and so reading it does kind of bring back like, oh, that is part of our history. Like, yeah, we did use this Chinese not slave labor to build our railroad and develop our country. And um I don't know how much we're meant to dwell on that as the reader of this book, but the story of his parents are that the mom gets pregnant with Lee, and tries to hide it, eventually fails to hide it. And I was gonna read what it said just because like it's pretty brutal, and I didn't want to speculate about I don't want to speculate about what this means,
Okay.
and like either take away from how serious what happens to her is, um, or add to it if it's not meant to be exaggerated. But basically, um, I'll just kind of jump in here. It says, "My mother went into early labor, and then the half-mad men knew, and they went all mad. One hunger sharpened another hunger, and one crime blotted out the one before it, and the little crimes committed against those starving men flared into one gigantic maniac crime. My father heard the shout 'woman,' and he knew. He tried to run, and his leg re-broke under him, and he crawled up the ragged slope to the roadbed where it was happening." I'm going to drop down. My father came to her in the pile of shale. She had not even eyes to see out of, but her mouth still moved, and she gave him his instructions. My father clawed me out of the tattered meat of my mother with his fingernails. She died on the shale that in the afternoon. So like, whew,
Not much left to the imagination.
ugh, yeah, not good.
Maybe like the toughest paragraph to read in the book.
Maybe I did just read it out loud. So, um, yeah. So you're right that Lee's not a one-upper, but that's a bit of a one-upper. He's like, oh, you
Yeah.
think your life's hard? Like, my dad clawed me out of my mom after she was super attacked by a bunch of sex-starved, half-crazed
Hmm.
Chinese immigrants slash slaves.
Like mob mentality to the max.
Yeah. Um, so
But
yeah,
then he
tough one
mentions that
there.
like on the flip side, is like how horrible that situation was to almost repent of their sins. Because he says, "No child ever had such as I. The whole camp became my mother. It was a beauty, a dreadful kind of beauty. And good night. I can't talk anymore." It's like,
I wouldn't want to talk either.
but I don't know
Not
if
sure. I'm not quite sure
them
that makes
raising
up for
him.
it.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna say. Like them raising
I'd
him
rather just
because now they like feel really bad at what they did to his mom does not make up for that atrocity of a murder.
no, no, no. Don't think so. Don't think so. Rather have my
So
mom.
disagree with you,
Uh,
Lee and Steinbeck, that it's not a dreadful kind of beauty. I think it's just dreadful.
it's just dreadful. Only dreadful. Yeah. Anyway, so moving on. Next up, Adam decides he's gonna write Charles, and he does, and he writes this kind of funky letter. We get the return of the "ha ha" with double exclamation. These guys like trying to like, how do I let him know I
LOL.
don't hate him? Ha ha! Like, so he writes the letter, invites Charles to come out and visit him, and sends it out. And
Yeah.
that's the end of chapter 28.
Yeah, I highlighted and noticed the haha too, because when I felt to me like when Charles wrote the haha in his like crazed letter, it almost was like the unraveling of a man, and it showed that he was a little
Hmm.
crazy. But I don't think Adam's crazy here, and so this kind of took the wind out of the sails of the crazy haha that Charles wrote, because now it's just that's how people wrote in letters back then.
I think we all everyone writes LOL at the end of their uncomfortable text that they have to send. Just like,
Yep.
hey, you want to come over? LOL. Like, like that's just the 1911 way of doing it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. One thing I'll add
uh,
too before going to chapter 29 is I liked how Lee said that he wished he had told the story to Sam Hamilton because he loved the
oh
celebration
yeah.
of the human soul. Thought that was a great little touch there. I wonder how many more little odes to Sam there'll be throughout the book, because
I bet a
Steinbeck's not
lot.
letting him down. Yeah,
I did. I did also like that Lee said that, and I agreed. I was like, yeah, Sam would have loved this.
totally.
He would have been all over. Probably would have helped you cope with it.
Oh yeah.
Um, well,
Okay.
chapter 29, take it away.
29. This is the return of Steinbeck's mode of writing where he likes to contrast something very bleak and horrible with something really light and funny and almost nonsensical. Because this is really a slice of life chapter with them experiencing a car for the first time. So, in the midst of Adam wondering if writing Charles was a good idea, inviting him to the ranch, um, basically he tries to teach the boys some fatherly things. And between them going to school, he wants to show them how to make whistles from willow reeds, but he doesn't know how to do it, which is kind of funny. He doesn't have like the fatherly touch that I'm sure you earn like the first 2 years of being a dad, and you just kind of get to keep it there. But he
Yeah,
doesn't
we'll
have that
see.
touch. Yeah, but he is doing the stuff with the boys, and then Will Hamilton shows up with his new Ford. And there's just a few little asides where Steinbeck talks about how much Will hates Fords, but he puts up with them because they pay the bills, a small fortune actually. And yeah, it's true. Sometimes it's hard to strike that balance between finding your work fulfilling and also making money. I think it's easier to lean a little bit more towards make sure you're providing for yourself than finding a fulfilling job. But
I'm not sure. I'm
Will,
not sure. I'm not sure Will struggles with that. I think
yeah,
he's okay with the decisions he's
he's
made.
okay.
He's doing all right. I
But
did I
he,
did oh real quick on that same point is that we did get more of like the internal dialogue of Will Hamilton.
mhm,
Um and always funny the way that Steinbeck clearly has an interesting relationship with Will, and almost like a disdain, where it's like Will shows up and like every time Will says something, we get like his thought process, and it's like Will did not actually believe this. And it's like the narrator's like, and he was a liar. like
yeah,
like the whole time. Just won't let Will get away with saying anything without being like, and that was insincere on his part. And
mhm.
so um
Yeah, it's definitely the contrast between how he paints his uncle Will and his uncle Tom, because I think
yeah.
he really likes Tom and he has a soft spot for
Hmm.
Tom, and I wonder if Will did John dirty later on. Who knows?
Yeah, had a bad vibe about him.
Yeah, I think that Steinbeck just generally has a dislike for the rat race and capitalism, and I think Will just personifies
Kind of.
those two things.
Yeah, I think you're correct.
So Will doesn't know jack about running the Ford. It's like a miracle he brought it to their ranch. And Steinbeck describes it as you need a little bit of magic to get it started. And so Will, in addition to not knowing anything about it, he also can't explain anything about it. And so he says, I'll just bring an expert by tomorrow. Um, and he can't even get the car going again. So he like borrows a horse and a buggy and just leaves the idle car there at the ranch. And sure enough, the next day, a mechanic shows up. Adam's let the boys skip school because they're so excited to see this car. And the mechanic is kind of like this just really young, inexperienced, but might think he's better than you mechanic, which kind of describes most mechanics. Like they
Hmm.
think that you know anything about cars, that they're better than you. But he only has 3 years of automobile experience, and there's only been 3 years of automobile experience in the world. So might be one
Was
of the
it
most
3 years?
experienced
I thought it
people in
was
the
like,
world.
wasn't it 3 months?
Was it 3 months?
Let's check. Let's
Time to check the book.
the book. I thought it was very short.
The mechanic drove up beside him. And from his 3 months, you're right, his 3 months
Yeah.
in automobile school, all it took was 90 days to gain that wary contempt for human
There
beings. My
you go.
goodness. But this kind of made me think of today with AI, how it's such a new thing, especially even like 2 years ago when ChatGPT first rolled out and everybody thought they were an expert immediately. And I think that was probably the case with the cars. Everybody thought they were an expert in cars right off the bat. But this mechanic, he's a little odd. He expects there to be dinner, which in old time speak means lunch, because dinner's supper for
Mm.
them. And the car comes with a handbook. They call it some literature to study. There's a line that said that now the boy went on so rapidly that the words ran together into a great song of the new era, which I just took it as like they could tell that this future speak and it's gibberish to them. And
Hmm.
much like when you're getting briefed like your first day at work or you're getting explained the rules to a card game that's brand new, you know that these are important, but you can't make sense of it.
Yeah. It, I think it's kind of exactly what you would expect from like a 19-year-old with 3 months of training, like who like he probably knows what to say. Like he's giving them this whole explanation of the combustion engine and here's this and yeah, and like there's like a difference between knowing all this stuff and like knowing how to explain it to people so that they'll know it. Because like
Hmm.
he's just telling them all these things so rapidly. It's like, how's anyone supposed to keep up with this?
Yeah, he's just
Um,
regurgitating it.
yeah, I'm sure, and he's 19, so I'm sure by the time he's a 40-year-old mechanic, he'll have a spiel that he'll use for customers where he kind of dumbs it down and explains it so it's very simple.
Hmm.
But when you're 19 and you've got a head full of 3 months of training, um, you want to just say everything that you know. You want to say,
Yeah.
you're not going to go there and not tell them something you know. Like,
Well,
why
and
know it if you're
also,
not going to tell them?
yeah, and also these people that he's delivering these cars to, they're all really rich, and I'm sure he's not the richest guy, and so I'm sure that gives
Yeah.
him an extra air of confidence to think that he knows more than these wealthy people buying these new cars. But anyways, this all just kind of ends up being just a funny little story of them being taught how to ride a car, drive a car, some mnemonic devices to remember how to start it up. And it turns out the mechanic's name is actually Roy and not Joe, just for giggles. But when this chapter ended, all I could kind of think of was, have we made driving cars today too easy? Because I think that too many people can get behind a car and drive it. And I think we need to go back to a little bit more friction to get into a
You
car
wanna
and to
you wanna
drive it.
gatekeep driving is
I think
what
we should
you're
gatekeep
saying.
driving a little bit. Yeah. Everything
I
is
do
computer with cars now. We can't have everything being
everything.
computer.
Everything is computer. I do feel some concern because like you interact with people and they're so stupid. And then you just like, man, we are sharing the roads. Like you're
Yeah.
gonna kill me one day. So perhaps driving should be harder. I don't know. It's kind of a miracle that like, and like I guess there are stats that like every 30 seconds someone dies on the road. Like it's kind of a miracle that it's like that every year we're not like, yeah, we lost half our population to car accidents because like
Yeah.
pretty crazy that that's not how most people die. Like like
Yep.
like we're astonishing. We've got to be beating the odds. Everyone
Yeah,
that
it's
doesn't die
it's
in a
the
car
most dangerous thing
crash,
you do every day is getting in a
yeah,
car.
yeah. Just anyway, I did think it was interesting. You already kind of touched on this, thinking of a car being like the frontier of technology. Um, like because I don't know, no one alive knows what life is like with no car.
Yeah.
At least in America, I guess there's people that like there's Amish people like that, but they know of cars. Like
Yeah.
I can't imagine like seeing a car for the first time and being like, what is that? I drive a
Hmm.
horse around, which is a living being
Hmm.
that I can like have a relationship and be friends with, and like now it's a machine, and
Man
like
and machine.
every generation or so, like there's crazy new technology. Like I don't know if we've seen that. Like I'm 27, you're 28, right?
Hmm.
You're like, what? And it's like, has there been something that's been created in our lives that like you couldn't have even have imagined? Like for our parents, they're born in the 60s and 70s. Like I'm sure like an iPhone, and that technically got invented in our lives, but I barely remember. I barely remember life before iPhone. Like
Yeah.
it's very fuzzy. But like if you're born in like 1968, like the idea that like less than halfway through your life you're gonna have an iPhone. Well, that would blow your mind the same way like if you were born in like 1870 something and then someone was like, "Yeah, when
And
you're
there's a
when you're about
car.
40 or 50 years old, you're going to buy a car." Like
Yeah.
so I don't know. Maybe I need to be like 50 for this technology for like the new whatever. I'm too young. Like
Could be.
maybe this happens later in life where the new technology that you could have never dreamed about. And like since I was born in like 1998, like 100 years from now, people will be like, "Can you imagine someone from 1998 teleporting for the first time?" And now we do it every day. Like that's what they'll be doing.
Yeah.
They're like, "Someone born in the 1900s lived to teleport at the age of like 70." It'll be like those fun facts where people are like, Picasso lived long enough that like he could that he could have seen Jaws, and it's like
Hmm.
that's what it'll be like for people like, yeah, like this guy is born in the 1900s, and
He
he
witnessed,
saw
he saw 9/11 on the
he
news and
saw he
also
saw 9/11,
teleported.
he saw 9/11 and then teleported to Pluto, like same life. That's
Yeah.
that's that's what they're getting with the car, is like
It's
just
it's
life
it's really
changing.
fun. It's really fun to think about the car that we take advantage of too
Yeah,
often. We
and
take for
actually
granted.
it kind of bleeds real nicely into chapter 30, because chapter 30 kind of starts with them in their car, and they
Hmm.
run into the postman, and he's kind of already doing old man shakes fist at cloud
Right
with
away.
the cars, where he's like, everyone's checking their mail twice a day. Like I just think it's really a really funny gripes, like, oh, they can't wait for their
Yeah.
stupid catalogs. um
Yeah, I think this is like maybe one of the first real big turning points of the Salinas Valley as a character, its
mhm.
landscape changing. Because he sets it up a
Yeah.
lot and it's like more or less the setting of the story. But now we're
Hmm.
finally seeing it change with our characters, where it's been pretty stagnant with the characters, but it's matured and changed now 2/3 of the way through the book.
Yeah, yeah. I did also think, like, with this postmaster, like, because he does say that line I just said, where it's like, these people, they have to come check their mail every day because they can't wait for their catalog. Like, he would be stunned by how radically impatient human beings are.
Hmm.
Like, when you like go to like click on a link to a website, it like takes 30 seconds to load, and you're like, I'm gonna break this computer in half.
Yeah.
Like,
Or
um,
hey, there's been a few days in my life in the past 6 months where I've had like three different Amazon drivers deliver stuff to my door at three different times.
they
I
just,
get a
they
morning,
just
noon, and
keep
evening
coming by.
delivery on top of postal service and a DoorDash order.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I do just think, and then he does talk about, like, I read it, kind of his exact comments. He says that they'll change the face of the countryside, check. They'll get their clatter into everything, check. Um, and then he says some stuff about the catalog. Um, and he says, I wouldn't have one around. Um, it was the women who put the pressure on, social status involved. But like, I do think it's interesting to think, like, because he's talking about cars, and you do kind of laugh, because like of how integrated cars are into our life, that the idea that it would be this like upsetting thing that people would have cars, or like even an annoying thing, like, oh, people have cars, like, of
Hmm.
course we have cars. um but like the things he says, like, yeah, like the cars did change the countryside, like they kind of knifed right through it, and like
Hmm.
it's really hard, it's made it so it's really hard to like live if you don't have a car, like,
Yeah.
especially in America. Like, America's very car centric,
Unwalkable. Yeah.
unwalkable, car centric design. Um, and it just kind of makes me think of, like, because cars make your life so much. It's so great having a car versus, like, if you don't have a car, like, if your car, my car broke down a couple years ago, and I didn't have a car for like a couple weeks, and I was like, this is terrible.
Hmm.
Like I
Same.
can't go anywhere. Um, and so like the car makes your life easier, but like you do kind of think, like, well, maybe if no one had it, things would be better. Like a
Yeah.
little bit. And like I think that's interesting to think about with lots of technology. Like, I was watching this movie. Have you ever seen the movie Highwaymen?
Mm-mm.
Um, it's okay. It's on Netflix, I think. But there's a part where they're talking. They're driving around in cars. They're kind of. It's probably around the same time as well, maybe a little later. It, and Woody Harrelson's like, "Hey, you want to turn on the radio?" And Kevin Costner's character is like, "Bad enough I have to drive around in this thing. Like, I can't have a moment of silence." Um, and it's just kind of interesting. Like I was just like thinking about that. I was like, wow, like the idea that like the radio is annoying to you. And I was like, and now like every second of every day, it's like got my podcast in, got my show, I've got the social media feeds, like I like stuff is just coming at me all the time, and like this old man in like 1940 is just like annoyed that he can't have 7 hours of silence like to think. He's like you don't want me to have a single coherent thought all day with this squawking. Like
Hmm.
um oh yeah, like I like listening to podcasts for bulk hours of the day.
Well,
But
to be fair,
just that quote, I
there's
was
no
like,
way I could listen to
should I
seven
be
hours of big
spending
band
hours of
radio.
silence? Huh?
Yeah. Oh, so I was saying, to be
So
fair, I couldn't listen to 7 hours of big band radio.
that's true. You couldn't listen
Or,
to bum, 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 bum,
yeah,
bum, bum.
bum, 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 bum. Yeah. Oh my gosh, this is the third time this hour.
you you kind of bumped that out really well.
Thanks. Yeah.
Just like veer off the road.
the
Maybe
top,
that's it. They didn't.
top 40. I'm more impressed by the radio stations he wasn't listening to.
Oh. Okay, so they go to the mail. They get a letter, and it's not from Charles. It's about Charles. It's from the lawyers. They like, hey Adam, we've been looking for you. Charles is dead. So boom, prediction wrong. I
Yeah.
I flip flopped back. Still
The
wrong.
section you predict he's coming back. He's dead.
Big dummy. So Charles is dead. And we get so like he reads it. He reads that part out loud to his kids, and we get their immediate reactions that very well define them as characters. Where Aaron is sad, and he's like, "Well, we should go and see his grave and see Mom's grave." And
Hmm.
Cal's like, "Did he leave us any money?" Like, he's building these guys up. You know what they're about. And turns out he did. I tried to like reread this to see like because like he's reading the letter out loud. It doesn't. I couldn't find if it said where it said if it did that he stopped reading out loud. But I guess he read the next part of the letter just to himself, where Charles did will like he did have a massive fortune, um, and he willed that money to Adam and his wife. And
Yeah.
as soon as I read that, I was like, "Oh no!" Like here we have the crux, the beginnings of a
Yep.
problem.
Here it is. The
Where
final
like
act
it
has
is
been set up.
willed. The money has been willed from Charles to Adam and his wife to share. Um,
Unless
and
she's
like
dead,
so I read that
which is what he's told his
unless she's
kids. Oh
yeah,
no.
and I read that and my mind starts kind of like racing to solutions where it's like, oh no, like she's entitled to the money. And then I was like, wouldn't he just not tell her? Like Charles didn't even know her real name. And
Hmm.
like it's not like the lawyers in Connecticut where they're from are gonna like find her. Um,
Yeah.
but I was like, well, this wouldn't be happening unless it was gonna like, is she gonna like find out somehow after Adam tries to hide it? Which he's not going to. Spoilers.
Spoilers.
Um, yeah, no. But yeah, so my mind starts kind of racing with like, what does this? What does this mean for the? We've got like 200 pages left of this book.
Yeah, a whole third.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite the
Um.
smart way, I think, to narratively bring Kathy back into the plot, right as her
Hmm.
children are like starting to really question the validity of the tales that their father has spun. But I was thinking, why would Charles divide this up? Why did he want to split it in half? And what I kind of came up with was, even though he outwardly hated her, he still kind of had that recognition of them being kindred spirits a little bit.
Mm.
I mean, you could maybe think that it's just some final spite towards Adam to control over him. Like, you married her and ran off and then didn't write me, and then I died. I'll leave you some money, but I'll split half with this woman. Maybe he knew that she ended up
I
being a
don't think he
complete
did.
mess. But I think that it's the kindred spirit thing.
My theory was that he just rather carelessly dictated it to the lawyer without much thought that that if they were separated. Like I
Yeah.
just think they were just like he was talking to his lawyer while he was on the verge of death, and the lawyer was like, "Who do you want to will everything to?" And he was like, my brother and his wife."
Hmm.
Just kind of like that. Those are the people he
Yeah.
knows. Like, but
So I mean,
maybe there was thought into it. My thought was that there wasn't thought, but your thought was that there was thought. So
yeah. I mean, that dude has nothing but time to think. I think he
yeah,
had to give it some thought, but sad that Charles didn't have a wife or family to pass it on to. He spent his days slaving
Charles
away.
Charles does end up a little bit tragic here, where it's like,
Yeah.
oh, that's it, I guess. Like I thought maybe you had I thought you had another chapter in you of
Hmm.
doing stuff, but nope. Um. Anyway, so yeah, and so that kind of ends that, and then Cal and Aaron are hanging out around the car, and they're making bets about whether Charles had money and yada yada, and like and Caleb is messing with Aaron as per usual, and we're getting Caleb's inner monologue or inner dialogue. I don't know which one. Where he's kind of reveling in how easy it is to mess with Aaron, and
Yeah.
he's like
It's like no longer
I
fun.
have well, but like he's loving it. He's like mud in my hands. It's so easy. I'll be able to do this forever. Um, and then Aaron kind of just like in a matter of seconds, and like because Cal has this whole thing planned out where he's gonna steal something and blame it on Aaron. As I understood it, I was having a little bit of trouble following this conversation.
Yeah.
Um,
No, I think you're right.
and it was gonna upset Aaron and cause a whole problem. And Aaron just kind of cuts through and in just a couple sentences of dialogue, just like pretty much annihilates Cal's desire to like or just kills his enthusiasm for being a little cretin like he is. And I can kind of read what he says. He says, um, Aaron it says, I don't Aaron said, I don't know what you go for to do it. How do you mean? Do what? All the tricky, sneaky things. What do you mean, sneaky? Well, about the rabbit and sneaking here in the car. And you did something to Abra. I don't know what, but you made her throw the box away. Oh, said Cal, wouldn't you like to know? And then Aaron says, I wouldn't want to know that. I'd like to know why you do it. You're always at something. I just wonder why you do it. I wonder what it's good for. And then it says, the pain pierced Cal's heart. Um, and it kind of goes on to explain that like he kind of loses the desire. It's not fun anymore. He doesn't want to be like this, and Aaron leaves, and Cal tries to like sit and like rev himself up to be a big meanie again, and he can't, and he just follows Aaron back into the house. So
Hmm.
I don't really know what that exactly means for Cal. It does seem like a big moment for him.
Yeah, I think
A
this is
part of
like
him
the
was like,
moment where we know that he isn't going to be an exact replica of Kathy because he
yeah,
can feel these things.
yeah, because she never had a pain pierce her heart.
Yeah.
Um, and so yeah, so it kind of did give me hope that maybe Cal will have something of a redemption arc. Maybe from here on out it seems different. That seems a little easy to me if I'm trying to predict what Steinbeck would be writing. Like for him to have the moment at 11 and change, like
Yeah.
um, I would think it would have to happen later for there to be real payoff in a novel. But you know, it gives you some feel that Cal's a little different from his mom, and then he's not like a lost cause.
Yeah.
Anyway, then we get Adam and Lee start discussing, uh, what to do about the will. And I thought this discussion was interesting because, well, if it was me, and this is of course why there's not going to be any books written about me because I'm just not going to do anything nearly as interesting as these people. If it's me, I'm saying, well, we're definitely not. We're like, well, if there's one thing we're not doing is we're not telling Kathy about this money.
Mhm.
Like I would view it as like we are so in the clear. Like it just says my wife in the document. Like it doesn't even have her name.
Yeah.
And by all accounts, she is dead, and she's going by a different name in some other town. Like,
Hmm.
um, although even though he said that his wife was in another town in the letter, like I don't think they're gonna hold him to that. Like I
Yeah.
would feel like we're in the clear.
Well, it seems like the
Uh,
lawyer's kind of a friend of his. He's like, hey, if you ever need any
yeah,
lawyer
he's
help, let me know.
he's all set,
Yeah. Yeah.
all set. But
Because he's got
clearly,
he's got
Adam's
that moral
conflicted.
compass.
Yeah, and Lee, like he's kind of like talking to Lee, and it's like he wants Lee to tell him not to tell Kathy, and like Lee just kind of won't do it. That's kind of what they're arguing about. Where it's basically the argument basically comes down to Adam being like, "What should we do, Lee?" And Lee being like, "Well, I know what you're gonna do," and
Yeah.
Adam being like, "I you don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't know what I'm gonna do." And Lee's like, "Why are you acting like this? Just go do what you're gonna do." He's like, "I'm asking you." Like, kind of a funny argument. And it does get a little contentious, like at the end, like they, like
Yeah.
they're kind of snapping at each other, um. But it basically comes down to speaking of Rasilla's life advice. Like, it was kind of if you listen to Rasilla's life advice, like he basically what the life advice boils down to half the time is, well, you're gonna do what you want to do anyway. So
Hmm.
that's basically what Lee says here is like, do what you're gonna do, man. Um,
Very anti Tim Shell was what he had said a few chunks of chapters ago, where you have this choice to choose, but now he's saying, yeah, but Adam, when it comes to this decision, you're condemned to fate. I know you too
well,
well, man.
yeah, I mean, I don't think he's saying like that, like he has to do it, but like I think he's just saying like, well, you're gonna do it, like that because I know you.
So you,
Like
you think
it's who
Lee's
you are.
saying, you think Lee's saying, I know you're not going to tell her, or you think he's saying, I know you will tell her?
I think Lee's saying, I know you will tell her. Like he's like, yeah, you're gonna tell her. Like
Hmm.
I, you think he's saying the opposite, where he's like,
Yeah, yeah. I thought
where
he was saying the
you
opposite. I thought he was saying,
you think he's negging him. That Lee's like, you won't tell her, and that's what
yeah,
makes Adam tell her.
yeah, because he's saying, because initially he says, you should, what do you say? Maybe you'll have to think for your brother. What your wife is doing is neither good or bad. Saints can spring from any soil. There's no springboard to philanthropy like a bad conscience. So I think Lee is a proponent of, you should do it, but I don't think you are because you're a coward. Because he doesn't know that Adam has already upstaged her a little bit on her own turf, and I think that's why Lee gets so upset. I think if he thought that they were on the same page, I don't think Lee would get super upset here.
Interesting. I might have read it wrong. I thought Lee did know that they talked. He didn't tell Lee? I thought he told him.
I can't remember. Maybe he did.
Alas, but it is just a funky argument where no one is saying their exact position really, where it's just them being like, well, I know what you're gonna do. It's like, you don't know what I'm gonna do.
Hmm.
And the last little bit of chapter,
Well, this whole time too, we know that Cal's listening, and so Cal
Cal
has
is list, yeah,
heard. He knows that the mom is alive.
yeah, and Lee does say it very, very openly. Your wife's a whore. It's like,
Yeah.
and so unless Cal doesn't know what that word means, Cal
Hmm.
now knows that the mom is a whore. And so interesting what Cal does. So he sneaks back into his room, and this is something that this points to something. This is an issue I have with lots of people where um I don't like saying things I don't want overheard if we're anywhere near the people I don't want overhearing it. Like
they
like
they should not have had this conversation in their home.
they should have walked out into a field where where no one could hear them. Like like when I'm trying to think of like a way to say this so that having it recorded won't be bad. But like, um, yeah, just anytime someone wants to like talk to me about someone, and I know that the person that they want to talk to me about is in the same building as me, I'm like, we need to be so far away from who you want to talk to about right now. Like that,
Text
like
me.
there's no way I'm going down because that person's like right outside the door. like
Hmm.
and that we don't know. Like so yeah, if I was Adam, I would be taking much more significant precautions to not have this be overheard. But they just kind of talked about it in the same house where the boys are.
Yeah.
I would, if I was Adam, I would have been like, "We're going on a walk, and we're going far away into a
Hmm.
field." Anyway, so Cal overhears. He sneaks back into the room, and he does an interesting thing. He says a prayer, and he prays to God to help him be like Aaron and help him not be mean and help make people like him. And then Aaron wakes up and he asks Cal what he overheard, and Cal lies to him, and he says that Uncle Charles doesn't have any money and that they're not going to go east to see him, but they are going to send a wreath, and that's the whole thing. And as you can see, like Cal kind of pulls it off. He pulls off a merciful interaction with his brother
Hmm.
after his prayer. So that's Cal.
Yeah. And I think it sort of separates Cal and Aaron a little bit more, where now Cal is more with his father and more mature and adult because now he knows the true story. Now him and Adam, even though they don't know that each other know this, they're both kind of protecting Aaron from this point forward.
Hmm. Yeah.
So a more paternal, brotherly relationship could potentially emerge from this. But I just thought it was interesting that for the second time in Adam's life, he's awarded a rather large sum of money
Mhm.
through an inheritance, and it's surrounded with questions of morality. Like
Yeah.
Cyrus, did he earn this legitimately? Was he lying his way through this? How did he amass this fortune? Now it's, do I split this with my wife? Does splitting it with my wife lead to my children finding out about her? Because he still hasn't even told a half baked lie to them yet.
Hmm.
So quite the conundrum.
Yeah.
More money, more
No,
problems.
well, I mean, I think things would be a lot worse for Adam if he didn't have all that money so that he could just mope for 11 years. Like he
Yeah.
would just be dead
Mm.
if not for the money. But yeah, it is interesting how
The
some
cycle
people are like
repeats.
that, but money just finds them a little bit. They do
Yeah,
well.
that's true.
All right.
Okay, chapter
31.
31. Doesn't take that much time for Adam to come to a decision that he's going to go tell Kathy about the money. So he's he tells Lee, and Lee isn't really surprised by it, or makes really no any doesn't really make any sort of like, I'm glad you've done this, or you're making a mistake. He just says okay, which could lead to your point of, well, this is what he thought he was going to do. But I just kind of,
I think that is why I ended
yeah,
up thinking that, where I was like, because it doesn't seem like there's any like really like it's
yeah.
kind of just more of course.
I was just
But
thinking
now I'm
that
confused.
Lee doesn't seem like one to like applaud somebody for making the right decision, because I think internally he thinks that you should make the right decision. So if you make it, good for you, but let's not like pat you on the back for doing this.
Yeah.
But right away when he goes to meet Kate, tells her, well, he doesn't even tell her, he just like throws a letter down and has her read it. And she thinks it's a joke. And then she says, no, could it be a joke because you don't have a joke in you? Could it be your brother joking? Maybe he's dead. Maybe he's not dead. She is thrown so off balance with this letter. Thinks that Adam's coming back to outsmart her again. And starts to say that, well, have you signed something? What'd you say to the lawyer? She's trying to get as much information from this as possible. And Adam's just like, I'm giving you this information. You can do with it what you want. I'm just here to tell you that you're entitled to $1.2 million,
Mhm.
basically.
No big deal.
And and Kate just does not believe him. She even she gives him some leverage that he didn't even have about the sheriff's order
Yeah, I'm
you
gonna say
can't
like he
you
didn't
can't
even know
mention that he's a
about
wife.
that.
He didn't know this, and so maybe she's thinking, are the sheriff and Adam in cahoots trying to get me kicked out of this town? He doesn't even want to use that as leverage. I'm sure that he forgot about that completely.
It didn't even seem to register with him.
Yeah, I'm surprised I think that he then just kind of started to relish in her confusion because he
Hmm.
did what he came to do, and now he's just sitting there enjoying her fall apart in front of him once again. This time without alcohol, so it's a legitimate sober, scared
Just
to death
a
nervousness.
sober crash out, like
Yeah.
just yeah.
So
He does surprisingly well again. Like I was once again like maybe I should learn my lesson, but I was still worried about him. Like when he
yeah.
went in there, I was like, what's gonna happen to him? But I do think it does kind of point to the power of honesty, where he really goes in there with nothing to hide. Like if he went in there with anything to hide,
Mhm.
whether it was like not wanting her to know about the will or not wanting her to know about the letter he wrote or anything at all, like he would have had to worry about like protecting that, and he would have had to be defensive and think about ways around that so where he wouldn't get caught. But like
And that's not where he
because
thrives. He thrives at being honest.
yeah, and because he goes in there with nothing to hide and honestly good intentions, like no ulterior motive. He's not trying to pull something over. Um, he's able to just kind of like rebuke all her like little sharp comments and accusations
Hmm.
and all these things like very easily. Like these interactions are easy for him because he has nothing to hide and he's
Yeah.
just telling the truth. And
Yep.
and it's unfathomable to her.
Yeah. She can't believe it at all. But I want to read this quote at the end of page 381 that Adam tells her because it's just kind of building on what he last said to her in their last interaction. He says, "You don't believe I brought you the letter because I don't want your money. You don't believe I loved you. And the men who come to you here with their ugliness, the men in the pictures, you don't believe those men could have goodness and beauty in them. You see only one side and you think more than that. You're sure that's all there is." And then she says, "What a sweet dreamer is Mr. Mouse. Give me a sermon, Mr. Mouse." And he goes, "No, I won't because I seem to know that there's a part of you missing. Some men can't see the color green, but they may never know they can't. I think you're only part of a human. I can't do anything about it, but I wonder whether you ever feel that something invisible is all around you. It would be horrible if you knew it was there and couldn't see it or feel it. That would be horrible." And that's the bulk of my East of Ethan there. But
Yeah.
that's definitely, she's figured out now. It's like, I think, has she arced out? What can she do from here besides just like
Get
continuing
more
being
evil.
evil? Because she Adam hits it right on the head. Just, you can't even see that there's goodness at all. A little bit of
Yeah.
a reinforcement of what I said last time, but now it's just right there. So Adam leaves, and I like the visual a lot of her not being aware that she's pounding her fist softly on a white oilcloth. It's just kind of like her
Hmm.
constant rhythmic war against all things good. Just, she's lost control. All she can do is pound
Yeah.
on something that symbolizes purity instead of actual purity.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't want to step on your East of Ethan, but I do think that'll be good when you get there. But it does very much just summarize kind of her whole issue, where it's just
Mm-hmm.
overwhelming cynicism, uh, and turning a blindness to the good and the that's out there, right? And
Yeah.
so I suppose we'll hear about more about it later.
Yeah, there's an interesting. I mean, the last word it says that she almost felt something like sorrow. Like, has she felt anything like this before? So what's going to happen
Like,
here?
yeah,
But we'll see.
maybe
We'll
maybe there
see.
is an arc to happen. Maybe
Yeah,
they're
very
gonna they're gonna
interesting.
they're gonna fix her. Like,
And so the chapter ends with a few pages of Adam stopping by Olive and Ernest Steinbeck's house, and little Johnny Steinbeck is mentioned. And if I was an author of any caliber to get my work published, I think I'd like try to write myself as a child into the book. I think it'd just be so fun. I just imagine it being so fun to just be like, oh yeah, I'm just going to put myself in here, but I'm just looking around my dad's leg to see Adam. But Adam talks to Liza, wants to pay his respects to her, and kind of talk about how great Sam was. Liza, she doesn't have Sam to yell at anymore, so now she has a parrot that she can bicker with, and the parrot
Hmm.
has a mouth on it. But Adam brings up that he's thinking of moving to Salinas for the boys. They can have a better education there. And Liza says, well, if you're thinking about that, go see my daughter Desi, because Desi is planning to move in with Tom at our old ranch. So that sets up the next chapter nicely. And then Adam runs into Will at a diner. And Will mentions that Tom is sad and mopey at the ranch, but he still doesn't want Tom to have Desi's company at the ranch because she's got such a good business going. I think Desi's business is the one where like the women can go let loose in the dress
Yeah, it
shop.
was the
Yeah.
dressmaking.
So that's how it is. That's how the chapter ends. Will not wanting his siblings to be happy or reunited, that SOB. But yeah, interesting. Kathy's put in a tight spot here. What will she do with this money? What do you think Kathy will do with this money? Will she
It's
out
not even a tight
herself,
spot. All she has to do is take it. It seemed,
take it and leave, and go exact revenge on Mr. Edwards?
yeah, I mean, that's all the fun she needs. I feel like everyone is making a big deal out of this, but it's fine. Just,
Okay.
just
Yeah.
like problem solved. Like Adam has all she has to do is trust Adam that he's not doing anything nefarious, and she has all the money she needs. She can drop her truth bomb on all the senators that are in her whorehouse and
Hmm.
go east and kill Mr. Edwards and go from there, right? But
Yeah.
something tells me
Okay.
that's not going to happen. But yeah, and then real quick on Will, I guess there's some of this in chapter 32, so maybe I'll save it for chapter 32. Do you have anything else left on chapter 31?
That's it for 31.
Okay, cool. So chapter 32, we get a feel for Desi. Um, and one of the things that Kathy said to Adam when he was visiting her was he asked if he had a woman, and he said he hadn't even thought about it. And
Hmm.
then Desi comes up in a few pages later. So my eyes are my ears, my mind.
My
Something about
eyes
me is
see
perked up.
Desi.
I do get that reference. Even though I don't watch the award shows. But yeah, so when they mentioned Desi, and now we're getting a full Desi chapter, I was like, is Desi the stepmother? Right? Maybe. I don't know.
She's not the
Spoilers,
stepmom.
we
She's the
don't know by
mom
the
who
end.
stepped up. No, we don't know. We
She's
don't
the
know.
mom who stepped up. We don't know because I've only read through chapter 32. I don't know what happens, and it doesn't tell us in this chapter. But we get to know Desi. We get to hear about her business, what people liked about it, what the women enjoyed about going there. But times are changing. There's less need for her custom dresses. There's ready-made dresses at the department stores. And so her business is winding down, and she's got this feeling like I guess to kind of back it up, she's like the beloved sister. That's kind of like her thing. She's got this great sense of humor. It seems like she's smart. Um, kind of like how Tom takes after Samuel, she also takes after Samuel. She's cut from
Hmm.
that cloth.
Yeah.
Um, and so like Tom, when Samuel dies, it seems to hit her pretty hard, and she doesn't have quite the same fervor for her business, and it's not doing super well anyway, and so she decides she needs to go be with Tom. And so that's kind of where we're at. Uh, Adam accidentally revealed to Will that she was planning on leaving. Uh, and I think they had strategically not told him because he can be
Hmm.
kind of a butt.
Oh yeah.
And so Will kind of shows up, tries to convince her not to go, talks about how great her business is, talks about how Tom's crazy. And again, I think you kind of hit us on the head. I feel like throughout this, from how Steinbeck writes Will, you kind of get a feel like he does have he does have disdain for business and like
Hmm.
doesn't look up to great businessmen or like Will, like doesn't find what Will does to be what life is about, to be like even though maybe it is fulfilling to be successful, like doesn't think that's where a life fulfilled comes from, is like
Hmm.
being successful at business, like that's not a great thing in and of itself. um because he just does he keeps having Will come back and be like, but business, and everyone's like, shut up, Will, like so because that's what she does, like she just so she's going, she ignores Will, she goes back to Selena, she sells her house to Adam. um and you get a feel like that maybe her and Adam are also cut from a similar cloth, where she offers him this high price because she's prepared to be negotiated down, and he just accepts it. And then she feels bad that he accepted it, so she tells him that she was selling
Yeah,
it too much. And it does feel like that is something that Adam would probably do if the roles were reversed,
for
where
sure.
he would be like, well, I'm gonna try to sell this, and they're gonna want to buy it for less, so I better start the price high. And then when they accept, he'd be like, okay, well that's too much. Actually, you can't give me that
Hmm.
much money. So, and again, maybe that's the end of them interacting ever, but it seems like
A little
maybe they
meet
would get
cute? Is that what
along.
you're saying? A meet
Meet
cute there?
cute. Yeah, that's their meet cute when she sells him her house. Um, and then so she goes back to the ranch. She sees Tom. They're very affectionate. The way it's described to me, I don't have any sisters, but that's not what I would be doing with my sister. But
I thought
me
that too, that you and I both only have brothers.
exactly. No, there's not a sister between us. We don't even.
Yeah, because this dude
Um,
he spanks her bottom at the train
yeah,
station.
like, at the time, she's like, so talk about grabbing her and rubbing his mustache on her. I was just like, I don't know. Maybe brother sister relationships are different than I know. Or
Yeah,
maybe it's
this
a
is leaning more
something to do.
Lannister than standard brother sister relationship than I thought.
Yeah, I don't think it's meant to be taken
I
that
don't think
way,
so
but it
either.
did.
It just I think it reads
I
weird in
just
2025.
it does read weird in 2025. You were correct. Um. Anyway, and then they're back at the house. They talk about how Will didn't want them to be together. Tom gets a little mad. I think they kind of moved past that. Um. And then Desi in the house, she kind of reminisces on what living there was like, and she kind of has this kind of fade to black memory scene where she's remembering them all being there, and Samuel and Joe, and you know, and then she kind of snaps to, and Tom's talking to her, and they both kind of determine, like they both kind of talk about how sad they are, and and Tom kind of says like, now you're back, and I'll show you. I'll breathe life into life again. Do you hear? This house is going to be alive. And so Tom kind of determines to be more present and alive. And after a bit of thought, Desi decides the same and also decides to be alive. And that concludes our chapters.
Concludes our chapters there. Yeah, it was one thing that I'll add from this journal of a novel about this Tom and Desi thing that I thought was interesting was
Hmm.
he said that of Desi went back to the ranch to take care of Tom because this actually happened. But her love was gone, and no one ever thought that she might have gone back in search of her father, or the safety, or the warmth she needed. Of all her family, Tom was the most like her father, and it was the seat she ran to. Maybe she was only running back to her childhood. I don't know, but it seems reasonable, and I think that's the way I will have to see it. So,
I
kind of
feel like
bittersweet
that.
there with his aunt,
I feel like
but
between her memory that she has and then talking to Tom, I feel like that makes a lot of sense. So,
totally. Thank you,
um,
Steinbeck, for putting that out there for us.
yeah, appreciate it, Stein. All right, we start with Nate's
Let's
takes.
take.
There's only
Bum
one.
bum 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 bum
Bum
bum
bum
bum
bum
bum.
bum bum. That might have to be the theme music for the for
It's
the
probably
pod.
it's probably royalty free now, right?
How old is that song?
I don't know. I'll look it up.
I'm gonna Google bum 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 bum.
Dang.
Oh, we'll have to record it ourselves. It'll
Okay.
be an acapella intro to the pod.
We should.
Bum 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 bum.
Inspired
What
by the
percentage of this
Highwaymen.
pod? What percentage of this pod is just the two of us going?
Doing big band scat a cappella music.
Yeah. Anyway, okay. Serious business.
Serious time.
Um, yeah. So yeah, my Nate's takes, like I mentioned, is based on the conversation that Lee and Adam have about whether or not to tell the truth to the boys, and the idea that, whether or not it's good to tell the truth, or whether or not it's good to lie to someone for their benefit, right?
Okay.
Um, and my takeaway is I don't know. I was gonna ask you, do you think it's appropriate to lie to people? If you
I
determine that it's the best course of action?
On the record, I will say I am a proponent of lying if it protects people.
But the thing is,
Potentially
like,
hot take,
my
but
my issue with it is, like, I think it sounds good, like, to be like, well, like, if it protects someone, if it keeps them away from unnecessary anguish, you know, I could see how that could be beneficial. But, like, how how am I supposed to be the one who makes that decision? Like, what someone can handle or what's good for someone? Like,
mhm.
it seems tremendously unfair. And I guess if the person never finds out, like, that's that, right? And they were never hurt. But, like, I think a lot of times when people find out things they weren't supposed to find out, a lot of the hurt is associated with, like, knowing how many people, or knowing that anyone lied to kind of maintain something and kept them in the dark, and that they operated believing one thing while the reality was another, and that the people they were
Yeah.
around knew that. I think there's, like, embarrassment associated with it, right? Like, you let me believe this. Like, I was probably talking about it, and you knew it wasn't true, and you just let me,
Hmm.
be like that for months or years or my whole life. Um,
Now you got me thinking that maybe it really depends on, is the lie something that is pertinent to how someone sees themselves as a human, or is it outside of that? So like with this one, it's I see myself, and I've been told that my mom is dead, so I only have a dad. Maybe it's not the
mhm.
best thing to lie about, but then something like the tooth fairy, or something, or
Well,
your fish dying, those are
I think I
okay.
think some
Those
of,
are white
like, the
lies.
specific child ones, like the tooth fairy, like your dog being taken to a farm, like, those are lies with the intention that, like, when they grow old enough, they will understand without even having to be told that that was to
Yeah.
protect a child. Um, and that it is, I think, 100% harmless. I can't imagine what, maybe there are people that are, like, telling kids that the tooth fairy exists does incredible damage to them. I don't know. That's not my belief. Maybe that's out there. Um, I don't know. I'm gonna Google it later. See if there's a subreddit. But something like, your mom isn't dead. She runs a whorehouse in another city. It seems like that would cause some damage. Like, I could see why you wouldn't tell. I guess, going more specifically into this one, which I didn't want to do actually, because I wanted to speak in general. But, like, going specifically into this one, like, this is something that they are almost certainly going to find out at some point, right? Like, it's going to be like, if people just around town know about this, it's gonna be really hard for them to live their whole unless you like somehow convince them to like move far away,
which he's not doing. He's moving them into
which is not
Salinas.
moving closer. Yeah, doing the
Yeah,
opposite. Like unless he was like, all right, boys, we are moving to Florida. Like he could probably maintain the lie if he did that, but he's moving in close. Like you're basically just like setting off. Like you're basically just like arming a bomb inside these kids where you're gonna really upset them.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. So it's like lie to the 6-year-old, lie to the 9-year-old, start to
double
float it
digits
out.
is where.
I think maybe at 10, I would have told them like, your mom's actually alive, and the reason I didn't tell you is because she shot me and ran off and abandoned us. And then we move into Salinas, and I say, okay, guys, she is here. But that's also, it's like, you say that, and you know they're going to go looking for her. Like,
Yeah.
is it better for them to see her as who she
No.
is? You don't think so?
I just think if you wanted to come like maybe this is my final take is that if you're going to lie to someone, you have to commit to it to a point where they are never gonna find out. Like it's
Mm.
like if Adam wants to lie to the kids about their mom, like you need to move far, far away from her. Uh and if you're not willing to do that, then you should just tell them the truth. And I think that's going to be my general application in life. You know, like if there's if there's something you think you should lie about, where lying is good, where it's going to protect someone, like you better believe it strong enough that you would let that belief like impact your life.
Mm.
And like otherwise otherwise you should just let it like it better be such a strong belief within you that this person can't know this that you should be willing to change everything to
Mm.
prevent them from knowing. Like, because
You
if there's
almost got
any
to
part of
force
you that's
yourself to think
like,
it's a truth. Yeah.
yeah, if there's any part of you that's like, where if you're given the options, like tell the truth or move across the country, and you're like, they could probably know. Like, I don't want to move. Like, just tell them. Just tell them.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's the take. It wasn't like I don't have a thought out like pound my fist on the table take on it. I just think it's an interesting discussion. To try to
I think
like
so too.
feel through. Maybe it's case by case. Maybe that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
The answer is sometimes it depends. Um, have you seen that? Have you seen that tweet where it's like y'all be on here arguing so definitively? I'm like sometimes it depends. Like, um,
I
no,
haven't
you
seen
haven't
that,
seen it.
but
I'll
I,
find it.
I, I, I can see it in my mind's eye.
Well, I saw a screenshot of it then. People be saying things so definitively, like, man, I think it depends. That's the Nate's take, actually. That's
Okay.
like, man, I think it. All right, let's go to East of Ethan.
Okay. East of Ethan. I've spent a lot of my East of Ethans talking about Kathy and the nature of evil. So I think what's one more? Because I think that
Hmm?
it's finally come to my final conclusion here about Kathy. Because throughout the novel, Kathy's been just like this embodiment of evil in its purest form. She's almost omniscient and invincible throughout the bulk of the novel. And she gets away with stuff without any real friction, except for maybe
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Edwards beating her up and leaving her for dead. But still, that like leads her directly to Adam. It's like one bad thing becomes a good thing for her immediately in this scheming world of hers.
Yeah.
So we learned in the last chunk of reading that Kathy's beliefs are fueled by contempt for other people who try to be good, even though she knows that deep down they're probing that black water, to use a Steinbeckism. But Adam sees through the flaws of this now with his newfound vision for life and zest for life. And I think that the chapter 31 here sheds some more light on her situation for me because she's just totally thrown off by Adam being honest with her, doesn't know what to do about Charles' situation. And I think that the reason this is because she's just completely trapped in her own narrow view of the world. And Adam is opening up this completely new world to her that she doesn't understand. And, we know that she can't understand goodness at all. But this finally broke her down. She's like not as omnisciently evil as we'd seen in the past, because she can't even see what Adam's doing. Like, he's right there telling her, I am being honest to you, and she can't see it at all, the future. So I thought this was pretty much a role reversal of what we'd seen leading up to this novel, this point in the novel, because Adam was once super naive and wounded. Now he's capable. Kathy was super capable and in control. And now she's stuck in like this emotional infancy. And so this brought me her emotional illiteracy here, and her kind of her character regressing while Adams is progressing made me think of Tim Schull and his quote about, it would suck if there's this great thing about you, but you couldn't feel it at all. And so I think that Kathy's biggest flaw is that she's evil, but she doesn't know there's a choice to choose good. And so I think that that's kind of where we can start to blend this idea that Steinbeck said some people are just evil and they're monsters, but and Tim Shell, because you need to have the two of them together. And with Kathy not wanting to see a choice or not knowing there's a choice to change, then you're stuck in your ways. And so it cleared it up for me, where I had this problem with Steinbeck writing this. Is like, why are you telling me about Tim Shell when Kathy is doomed to evil? It seems like Steinbeck's stance is some people can be doomed to evil, but they're doomed because they're not seeing there's a choice within themselves. So
That's interesting.
that's kind of my take there, trying to blend some of the two big stuff that I think Steinbeck's throwing down in this novel, that are constantly fighting, and some of the main universal themes of humanity that we see today. They're constantly fighting with each other. So we'll see. I just know that Kathy's no longer all powerful anymore, and this choice has been presented to her. Will she see that there's a choice?
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of saw it as like two things, really, that whole interaction. One was kind of a warning about being overly cynical, the way Kathy is,
Mm-hmm.
and choosing to only see the bad. And the other one, which is almost like a theme for the whole book, um, is that what wins is honesty and selflessness, because
Mm-hmm.
that's how Adam's beating her in these interactions, where he's winning because he's just being honest, and he's going in there with no intention but to just do what he thinks is right.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's kind of like, if you have that combo of like selflessly wanting to do what's right mixed with being honest, then like you can't get painted into a corner, um or manipulated the way that Kathy wants to do it, right? There's no pressure
Yeah.
points. Um so yeah,
Nice.
muy
Nice. Nice.
nice.
Nice. Ooh,
Okay.
nice.
What's next? Adaptation notes?
Yeah. Adaptation notes.
Yeah, so this is getting it's kind of getting to the point where I'm like, are any of like the first 20 chapters even going to be in the show? Where it's, it's like I'm kind of like looking back at our first chapter summaries, and I'm like, does any of this even factor into the story, or is that like all background stuff that it's like
Mm-hmm.
nice if if you read the book, you know about this, but like really the story starts when these kids are born.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
I
that's what they did in the
it makes
'50s
me.
movie. It's only Cal and
Is
Aaron.
there
There's no Lee in the
really?
'50s movie.
Well,
Uh,
that's wrong.
that is wrong. I agree, but it starts with, it's just Cal and Aaron.
Really, that's what they chose to do. I
Yep.
would be a little disappointed, but the more we read, the more I'm like, I don't know if we're gonna get anything about Charles and Adam,
I think
except in
we
like
will.
flashbacks.
I think that if we
You
do,
think
it'll
so?
just be, it could be the
Quick?
flashbacks, but I would I would really appreciate it if they set it up, because Steinbeck has said that like the most important part of the novel is the letter from Charles to Adam that he writes in like chapter 4 or 5. And he says, if you don't understand this, you won't understand the novel. And so I think it'd be a little bit of a misreading of the text to not
Mm.
include Adam and Charles' story.
Yeah, it's just like
So,
when I was reading it, it all felt so important. And now that I'm like in this story of like Adam and the twins and Kathy and all this conflict, I'm like, this is gonna be the bulk of the show, but it's like we got so much to show. Like,
hmm
how are they gonna fit all this in here?
I know the more I'm reading it, the more I'm thinking that it's almost unadaptable. I think
You're like,
it's like what people thought about Dune before, and they adapted that great. But it just feels like it's just so broad in scope that you're going to miss so many great things if you limit it to 7 hours of TV.
it does feel like a show. Like if they're at all faithful with their adaptation, it's gonna be one where like I'm watching with my wife and she's like, "Wait, who's that?" like,
Yeah,
like every like 5 minutes she's gonna be like, "Who's he?" And I'll be like, "That's Will. That's their other son. He just pops up sometimes." And he's like, "Well, who's that?" Like, "Oh, that's uh that
that's
I can't even."
that's Una. I don't know why they have her in
That's
there because that's a really tragic backstory.
yeah. Then oh, that's Olive. She's she's the sister. And so yeah. Anyway, so
Yeah,
that's Desi.
yeah.
She's the beloved. I don't know how they're gonna. Um,
It will be. It'll be like how they'll introduce people. Well, there's like the still frame. Like they walk up and then "Fring, eat
they're
Jesse,
gonna
the beloved." They like the text comes out.
they're gonna do it like Edgar Wright style, like
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
like freeze frames. I will say the one scene in these chapters that I was reading and I was like, well, actually two. There's two. The Adam second confrontation with Kate. I just feel like these are gonna be like Florence Pugh just going off, like where she's like screaming like, "Oh, Mr. Mouse!" Like,
I know. I
like
want to see that too, Mister Mouse. I just see her
Mr.
clapping.
Mouse, Mr. Mouse. They might even just combine those into one conversation,
They
if they're having
honestly
to be
probably
efficient.
could. They
Yeah,
probably could.
have that be one thing. I mean, it makes sense in the book that they're separate, but like if you're like, we've got 7 hours of television, like we can't have two big fights, like
hmm Yeah,
um. But then the other scene is like, is Cal sneaking around and overhearing that his mom about his mom. I feel like we're definitely getting
yeah.
like a child peering through the floorboards and
That's what I was thinking too. It'd be way more dramatic if we didn't know when they're having a conversation that he's listening, and then the door closes, and then you see like the eyes through the floorboard.
yeah,
So
the camera pans up and it's just
yeah,
yeah,
and then he
so
goes in, and I think he has to do a verbal prayer of like
yeah, verbal prayer.
verbal prayer. We need a verbal prayer.
Verbal prayer. Okay.
So
Very cool. That's the notes.
okay, some Steinbeck stats. I don't have a ton
Yes.
here.
Give us the Steinbeck stats.
So,
You said you don't have
so
a ton or you do have a
I do,
ton?
it's starting to whittle down. So what's interesting is for the first half of the book, I could kind of flip through the book and see, okay, I'm a quarter of the way through, and then I'd see in the journal of a novel about a quarter of the way through, and that led up. But now I'm nearly 80% done with the journal of a novel, but we're only
Mm.
two-thirds done. And so he's really starting to skimp on us. And part of that is because he was writing these letters to his editor. And now his
Mm-hmm.
editor is with him in person. And so he says that he's like
Um,
having the conversations with him out loud. He's still trying to write a little bit, but he's more talking through things live with his editor as opposed to writing stuff down. So I don't know how much more we're going to get in this final third of the novel
mhm.
from this book right here. But there was one thing that I just wanted to bring up where he's talking about whittling a box for his editor, Pat, to hold the manuscript in.
Mhm.
And that actually is made apparent in the dedication page of East of Eden. So I just thought I'd read that because I really like it. It says
Go
Pascal
off.
Kovikji, Dear Pat, you came upon me carving some kind of little figure out of wood, and you said, why don't you make something for me? I asked you what you wanted, and you said, a box. What for? To put things in. What things? Whatever you have, you said. Well, here's your box. Nearly everything I have is in it, and it is not full. Pain and excitement are in it, and feeling good or bad and evil thoughts and good thoughts. the pleasure of design and some despair and the indescribable joy of creation. And on top of these are all the gratitude and love I have for you. And still the box is not full. So I really like that. Just like Steinbeck is really putting everything he has into this novel, and then he's putting
Yeah.
it in this box for his editor, who's his friend, and it's almost like, and it's not full. Like so much of the human story that I'm trying to put into East of Eden, and all this effort I'm putting into this wooden box for you, eventually it's just not going to suffice for what like we feel as humans, what the human experience is. And one thing that I really like about Steinbeck is he finds the he gets his most joy out of writing. He says that this is a time of great joy. It will never be so good again, never. A book finished, published, read is always an anticlimax to me. The joy comes in the words of going down and the rhythms crowding in the chest and pulsing to get out. So he's having fun with this, and he likes talking it through with Pat. And in addition to the book, he also wants Pat to see him whittle this box because he thinks that it'll be way more fun and meaningful for Pat if he sees him making it instead of just
Mm-hmm.
giving it to him. So I've really enjoyed seeing Steinbeck make this book while rereading it. So it's just kind of cool. I never thought about that with seeing the effort put into something as opposed to only getting the finished product.
Yeah. Okay. Very nice, John.
Johnny Stein.
Yeah, almost the name of the pod, right? We were considering podcast names around the box.
We were. We were.
Um, we it was under consideration. We like the pig.
I like the
Um,
pig stuff. Although now that we wear hats all the time, I was thinking it could be like two hats, one book.
Dude, I don't know. I don't know if if the hats are interesting enough to name the pod. Like, oh yeah, what do we have a podcast? We read books. We wear hats.
Yeah,
What's
that's
up
our
with the
thing.
hats? We just have them. We have lots of hats, both of us.
We're different like that.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I cannot remember what hat I was ever wearing in between when it's time to like record the next episode. I'm like, I'm gonna accidentally wear the same hat every episode.
Yeah.
Um, and like because I'm not helping edit until they're all done.
Hmm.
Um, and so like we're gonna sit down and I'm gonna be like, I wore the same shirt and hat every time.
Yeah.
But nevertheless. All right.
Nevertheless.
Predictions, correct?
Predictions, yeah. Well, I'm having to go through and
Okay.
put a bunch of boxes red because now we know
Oh
Charles is not
no.
coming back.
Just not,
Charles still
not
comes
good.
out. Yeah.
Let me
So,
go to my Google Drive, find these predictions. Oh.
oh, I guess there's one because you in episode 6 you said Charles is not coming anymore. So we'll make that green.
It doesn't count if I
If you
go
went back
back
on
and
it, okay.
yeah. What about my last one? Let's see.
Adam is Sam's successor in the story.
He
The
kind of
Bacons,
is.
I'm gonna say yeah. I'll say he's keeping him alive. I'll give you that one. The Bacons, at least the husband, are
We
patrons
don't
of
know yet. We
Kate's.
don't know yet.
We don't know, so we'll keep that
I'm
as
thinking not
yellow.
though. It doesn't seem like it, but don't let's not say red yet. We don't know. Charles is not coming back. And I said Aaron and Abra would be together after a large time jump. That is also wrong. Okay, so my predictions now. It feels like the layup is that somehow Adam and well, I don't know if it's a layup because this might have just been total misdirection and me reading into things that aren't there. But I'm gonna go with Adam and Desi get together. Adam
Okay.
gets together with Desi. Um, I'm also gonna go with Cal investigates his mother and meets her, but doesn't tell her who he is.
Ooh. Okay.
He finds a way to meet her and like run into her like either in the street, um, or he's just following her around. Yeah. Um, then what about the money? Charles comes back. Just kidding.
The ghost of Charles. Charles isn't dead.
Charles isn't dead. This
The
is all
lawyers
a
killed
prank.
Charles. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna say that Kathy refuses to take the money, and she begins to hatch a plot to destroy Adam through Will. Will's gonna be involved. She's
Okay.
gonna she's gonna try to get in there.
Okay.
And we'll call it that. Those are three predictions.
Okay.
My hit rate on these is not great. But we
All
move.
good. We move on. All right. Well, that's the show. That is the show.
Many people
Bum
are
bum
saying, yeah.
bum bum
Bum,
bum bum
bum,
bum
bum,
bum.
bum, 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 bum. All right, you give me the bump bums out, and I'll hit the catchphrase. Ready?
Yeah. Bum bum
All right.
bum 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 bum.
Never fly. I'm gonna go sing. Never fly a bill, me boys. It's over. It's done.